Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thanks for joining us. Today's webinar is Apps and APIs Transforming the World of Facilities Management. I'm Ann Cosgrove, the Editor-in-Chief of Facility Executive Magazine, and this webinar is presented by ARC Facilities. Before we get started, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. Please note the control panel on your screen. This is where you can submit questions in the question box in the panel. Please send your questions in at any time, and they will be addressed after the presentation. Please note the orange arrow on the left side of that control panel. Clicking on that will either expand or collapse the panel, so be sure it is expanded and you can access the question box. If at any time you experience a technical difficulty, you can also send a message to us there, and someone on our team will answer you privately. If you're interested in continuing education credits, please note you'll receive a certificate of attendance and an email from Facility Executive after this webinar, and you can report that to your association for the CEUs. So now I'd like to introduce your speaker today. Suri Suryakumar is the CEO of ARC Document Solutions and the founder of ARC Facilities. In the last 10 or so years, Suri has led ARC to invest in technology to become a leader in access to information in facilities for the built space. Under his leadership, ARC has developed advanced search, optical character recognition, and auto hyperlinking tools for large and small format documents in the facility space. Suri has written a white paper on this very topic of how AI and mobile apps are transforming facilities management. So we're excited to have Suri presenting today. So the use of technology in the facility space is not new. We in the facility space have been using technology for decades. However, technology itself is advancing quickly. And the technology today simplifies everything we're doing in our lives. Intuitive. Yet the technology in the facility space does not always seem that way. So Suri today will examine the reasons behind this and what we should do to move into the next phase of technology advancement. And we'll then take audience questions at the end, as I mentioned. So with that, I will pass it on to Suri. Welcome, Suri.
Thank you, Ann, and good afternoon, everybody. So let's dive right into this. What is fugitive information? So this sounds like a term out of an FBI report or something like that, and it's not. Actually, I bumped into this term when I met one of my customers. And I asked him, why do you call that fugitive information? He said, oh, it's really simple. Whenever I need information, it seems like I can't get the information. I know it's there, but I'm never able to lay my hands on it. So he said, therefore, I call that fugitive information. I thought that's an interesting perspective. We know it's out there, but it's hiding. And we don't know where it is. So I want to we went on to dive deep into this and really try to understand the impact of the access to information in the facility space. And we did quite a bit of research and also customer surveys. I want to talk about that later, but I want to talk about one example. Just take an extreme example and talk about it. And I'm sure all of the audience in the webinar have your own experiences. So here's the example I picked. It's Burton Bar Library in Phoenix, Arizona. For those of you listening to us from Phoenix, this is a well-known name. This is a well-established library in Phoenix, Arizona. One August night in 2017, there was a strong windstorm in Phoenix. And the storm was so powerful that it lifted the roof a few inches and dropped it down back. Now, it never ripped open the roof or damaged the roof, but it literally lifted the roof and dropped it back a few inches. In doing so, it actually damaged a large sprinkler pipe. And the pipe was leaking something like 60 gallons per minute. Now, just for comparison, according to the fire chief in Phoenix, a fire hydrant would spit out something like 100 gallons a minute. So this is a large body of water flowing down. So obviously the first responders, and then of course, the facility managers all rushed to the location. But here's the challenge. They just couldn't find the shutoff valve. And it took them 3 hours. Really, if you think about it, it's 3 long hours. And in that 3 hours, the water flooded all 5 floors and caused huge amount of damage, 10 million to be exact. And moreover, the library was actually shut down for over a year. So why does this happen and how does this happen? It's almost inconceivable that in this day and age, in a building like this, Burton Bar Library, it's not a derelict building, it's not a neglected building, it's a modern building which has all the latest maintenance tools and obviously has an excellent maintenance team or facilities team. And yet it happened. The aspect of fugitive information, how does this happen and what is the impact of this? So what we wanted to do was, again, like I said previously, we did research into this and interviewed and surveyed a lot of customers. But in the process of doing this research, we discovered something which is very interesting, which I want to share with you today, which is something that people don't always think about, but here's what we found out. Historically, there has never been an efficient way to access information from building drawings other than physically reading it. So stop and think about it. The common, complaint we have, or the common, thing they talk about is that we can't find the document. It's misplaced. Somebody took it, never put it back. We didn't scan it. It's torn. It's faded. Whatever that might be. Or if it is digitized, yeah, it's in the desktop. But even if you find the drawing, if you stop and think for a moment, a facilities technician has to actually read the document to get the information. Well, let's say it's digitized. It's on your desktop. Does it change anything? Well, the fact that you can find the drawing, thank God for that, but you still have to actually read the drawing. So I just wanted to highlight that point. That is something that it's reality. So if that is the case, we not only have to find the documents, but then also have a technician read the documents. What does this translate to? And this is where we want to share the survey information with our audience today. So documents by the numbers. So let me dive right into it. The first. So we found out that almost 2/3 of the facilities in the United States, 2/3 of the participants we surveyed are commercial buildings, 2/3 of them, right, or 65% of them still had some information in paper format in their buildings. Now, most of you who are listening to us will know, how much paper you still have, but I thought that was a stunning number that 65% of the people still have some information in paper format. And here's the next one. A whopping 86% of the managers acknowledged that they didn't have instant access to information. Now, I want to make myself clear here. Not that they said they can't access information, not that they said they don't have information, but they admitted they cannot access information when they want it. In case of an emergency or something that they needed immediately, they just can't access it. So that's what, the case study we did in Burton Bar Library, if you wanted the information immediately, you are unable to get it. So what does this mean to the facilities world, to the facilities segment in the build space? That's what we went on to examine. So let's talk about the challenges we are facing, and we identified 3 challenges. Obviously, there are lots of challenges, but we identified 3 top challenges we think are very relevant in the facility space. First, we found out that big accidents, or we can call it catastrophe. We defined a catastrophe as anything between $150,000 to $200,000 worth of damage. Accidents of that nature, how frequently does it happen in large commercial buildings? And the result was pretty stunning. I would have thought, if somebody asked me before doing this survey, how frequently do you think it would happen? I would say, these things could be happening every 5 years, maybe every 10 years. That's the general impression I would have had. But interestingly, a catastrophe or a big accident or a big event related to maintenance happens every 24 months in large commercial buildings. That's what the average statistics show. And the cost of that is in excess of $500,000. So we thought that's a pretty compelling number. And the second one is, it's related to the time facilities technicians spend. So it's not unusual, and many of you know, if you're in a large commercial building, a facilities technician shows up. When he comes, you might have 10 tickets, 15 tickets for the day. So he grabs his tickets and then heads out to the location to where, whatever needs to be done. Either it's a broken air conditioner or a air handler, whatever that might be, and then he examines. And then when he wants to get more information, either, open up a job order, or whether he wants to find the last inspection report, or whether he wants to find out, who the servicing agent is. It seems like the facilities technicians always trek back to their desks or their stations or the document storage room, wherever they are located. So it seems like then once they get the information, and then they move on to the next job. So it seems like the facilities professionals actually go back and forth to the workstation quite a few times every day. Now translate that to a large campus like the one you see in the picture. If you have multiple buildings, the facilities technicians are probably located in one of those buildings, in one of those floors. They still have to get to the location where the issue is, and then come back to their stations. And if you do that in a large complex like this, you're probably talking about 2 hours. In some instances, and it's not uncommon, facilities technicians actually have to drive to get to the place where there are issues. So a simple math will show you, if you have 20 or 25 people in a large commercial building, very quickly numbers add up. For a year, you could be spending $250,000 just in wasted time. Now, if that happens to be in a large campus like that, that could be in excess of $500,000. Or in bigger teams, in bigger campuses, it could run into millions of dollars. So we thought that's worth talking about, the significant impact of not having information in hand. So the third one I want to talk about is about the space where you really have facilities professionals retiring. And as many of you know, large majority of the facilities professionals in the facilities world today are actually baby boomers. Many of them have long tenures in maintaining and managing facilities. It's not uncommon for you to bump into a facility manager who has been in the company for 20, 30 years. And as we all know, the baby boomer generation is retiring now. Not sure how many of you know the statistics, but it's said that something like 10,000 baby boomers retire every day. I can only imagine that the COVID might have actually accelerated that. It has been going on for the last 5 or 6 years, and it's likely to go on for the next 5 or 6 years until the entire generation of baby boomers go into retirement. That's just a generational thing. So when that happens, how does that impact the facilities? If you think about these facility managers, they're literally walking encyclopedias. They know where the bodies are buried, so to speak, because they have been in the facility for a long time. So anything and everything they use on a regular basis, they literally know it by heart. Now, of course, in the case of Burton Bar Library, they obviously, didn't find a shutoff valve in the roof. I guess that's something that you don't look or use on a regular basis. Now, that's a challenge. But if the legacy, employees or legacy facility managers leave, that poses a challenge. Again, the fugitive information gets even bigger and more problematic when you have a brand new facility manager who walks in and who doesn't actually have access to that information the same way the previous facility manager had. So those are the 3 major impacts we had. So that brings us to the next question. How can current technology transform facilities information? This concept of not being able to access the information, or the concept of theory of fugitive information. Can we address that? So this goes back to what I was talking about originally. First is finding the documents. Second is, even if you find the documents, the ability to read them. As you know, technology has significantly advanced in the last several years. And today we have artificial intelligence, machine learning, all kinds of advanced technologies which can actually do the work we humans do. So what we wanted to examine was, is there a possibility that we can use technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning to really extract information from all of the building documents we have right now? So think about it. It's your document storage room, or it's that big server you have where you have 10,000 files. You have building drawings, you have closeouts, you have as-bills, you have original equipment manufacturers information, warranty information, reports, all kinds of stuff, right? So having that one is one issue, whether you have it in paper or digital, and then reading and getting that information is another issue. If we are able to do that, then we can take that information and deliver it on a platform or a device where facilities professionals can access it without difficulty, which simply means it has to be a mobile device. Is that possible? Is what we want to talk about. And here's what we found out, or here's what I want to talk about today. Today, we can read architectural and construction drawings without human intervention. Now, we can read regular drawings without human intervention. That's, widely known. But there's always been a challenge reading architectural drawings. And we do actually now have technology which can actually read architectural, construction, engineering drawings and be able to extract that information and be able to deliver in a device where it's available to facility managers anytime. So what does that look like? So in order to elaborate that, I want to really talk about what we do in our real lives. Here's what we do in real lives, right? In the Apple App Store alone, there's something like 2.5 million apps now. Android has much more than that. It is said that there are something like 60 million apps actually are installed in mobile phones. So there is much more coming. So literally you can do anything with these apps. You can get a cab, listen to music, watch videos, get directions, get a boarding pass, check the weather, order food, travel, whatever that might be. So if you think about it, I was previously saying I would challenge the audience to think about something that you can't do with an app. Nearly everything is accessible via mobile devices. So that's the world we live in. And in doing that, if you think about the fact what we can do with those, should your facilities information be any different? Can we do that with facilities information? So here's what I wanted to talk about. If indeed we do this, so like I said, in our personal lives, we take this for granted. We have a mobile phone, there are apps, we install whatever apps we want, and we continue to do things we haven't done before much more efficiently, much more faster, and much quicker. And if we are doing that, that results in something that we don't quite recognize. And that's what I want to talk about. And that is basically consumerization of information. Of course, what we are talking about is consumerization of facilities information. But in general, I want to discuss with the audience consumerization of information. Here's how I explain that. Let's say I go out for a jog tomorrow and hurt my knee. And if that happens today, I would act differently to when it happened to me. Let's say if it happened to me 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I would set up an appointment, go to a doctor, describe all the symptoms, and let him come up with this, diagnosis as to what's wrong with me. He'll ask me all kinds of questions. Where is it hurting? Is it hurting when you're walking, sitting, jogging? And he'll ask all kinds of questions and probably tell me, it seems like you have a torn meniscus, and this is the procedure we have to do. And of course, if I needed more information, or if I wanted to confirm that, I might actually have to get a second opinion. But today, what would I do? I would actually get to my computer and Google knee pain. And right away, I will have access to hundreds of different sites, WebMD, Blue Cross, Anthem, Kaiser Permanente, John Muir, you name it. It could be any one of the medical companies. And I can literally put in all my symptoms, whatever they may be, and get a fairly accurate assessment to the same extent that, I probably tore a meniscus. And if that is the case, I could also find out which hospitals offer these surgeries or procedures, and which doctors do this, what are the ratings on those doctors, and probably how much it will cost me. So that's what I mean when I talk about consumerization. Now translate that to facilities, right? So this is information. What I mean by consumerization is information previously available to only specialists. Today is available to everybody because the information is now consumerized and anybody can access it. So the other example I gave is that, let's say one of us want to go for a friend's birthday party, and it so happens that friend is a wine connoisseur or somebody who likes wines. So you go to the store, you don't know much about wine, but you go to the store to buy a nice bottle of wine. How do you judge that? You have to ask somebody and hope to God, somebody is not fooling you there. If it is a pretty looking bottle with a silver label, it might look very impressive, and you might end up paying $85 purely, either by the looks of it or by somebody who recommended, who calls himself or herself a specialist. So that knowledge was limited to people who knew about wine. Today, I can actually pull out an app in my phone, and it's called Vivino. There are hundreds of apps like that. I can literally scan the bottle, the label, and know which country is that from, what kind of grapes did they use, how much is the average price of that wine. And I can also get ratings on that wine, and I can also find out who recently drank the wine. Is it full-bodied or is it dry? Whatever the notes on that wine will be available to me. So think about it. Previously, that information was available only to specialists. Today, that information can be accessible to anybody. So that's what you refer to, what I refer to as consumerization of information, which is profound in our lives today. Not in the facility space, though. But imagine it coming to the facility space. Suddenly, let's go back to the Burton Bar Library. Anybody could find that information, providing it was consumerized and available in the form of an app. So what does this really do, consumerization of information? Here's how I would describe it. If you have a major challenge, you'll be able to instantly access that information. Would it have helped if the Burton Bar Library team found the shutoff valve in 1 hour as against 3 hours? Likely. Would it have helped if they found the information in half an hour? You bet. Do you think it really would have helped if they found that information within minutes? I guess if that happened, that story would have never even made it to the press. So let's take the next example. Here's another example of consumerization of information. If this information is available, if it is extracted through AI and machine learning and delivered to the facilities technicians, when they are standing right in front of an air conditioner or a broken air handler, then they don't have to trek back to their desks and then try to set up a work order or review a inspection report or the warranty report. They can actually, right in front of the air conditioner, get the information required, and then set up the repair process and move on to the next one, right? So you eliminate all the time traveling back and forth. Let's go to the third example. Here's a perfect example of consumerization of information. Previously, the information was available to a specialist who has been in the company for 20 plus years or 15 years, or who has been around for a long time. Today, you can hire a 30-year-old or 35-year-old engineer and give him a device, and they'll be able to access that information. That is the power of consumerization, and it will completely change the way how we look at things. So I want to take a moment and show what will it look like on your device. Let's say you have buildings and you want to have instant access to as-bills. Here's what it'll look like. You basically tap on the icon, open the app, go to the as-bills, voila, there you have it. Within literally 4 taps, you can access that information. Now that information can be shared, you can mark it up, you can do all kinds of things with that information. Let's say you are in front of a piece of equipment and you want to find out more data on that equipment. Scan the QR code. Instantly, you can get access to information on that piece of equipment or warranty reports, whatever that might be. Let's say you want to find out where a shutoff valve is. Here's what you'll do. Just simple steps like this will immediately take you to a shutoff valve. You could actually put in a video here to show how the shutoff valve can be turned off. So it simply doesn't mean that a facilities technician must be there. Maybe the front office receptionist can do it, or the security guard in the night can do it. So the point I want to establishing a mobile platform for building information creates a sea change in how facilities professionals access information. Really a sea change. Once you have that platform, this information can be accessed from anywhere, anytime. And that will address a variety of issues and significantly improve the way we work. And it is something that it's not a question of whether it will happen. It will happen. The question is, whether you are ready for it and how fast you are moving towards it. So now that we have talked about the power of apps, I want to take a moment and talk about APIs. Because apps lead us to APIs. As I told you, apps have taken over the world and it's going to continue to happen. However, there's another phenomenon which is happening. The impact of apps and APIs on information sharing. So what is an API? I want to talk about that. So API is an application programming interface. What it simply means is that an API will allow apps to connect with other apps. So in other words, it will allow one application with other applications. So it's kind of an integration, but it is not a software integration in the way we knew in the last decade. What happens with apps is that one app is able to selectively extract information the app needs from another app and be able to deliver consumer, significant values. We use APIs all the time. We just don't know it. And that's the marvel of modern technology. It's so sophisticated. We have so much technology built in. The user interface is so simple, we don't recognize it. So I want to take a couple of examples. Let's say you want to travel somewhere today. You understand there are, the travel agency, travel agents are not, there aren't too many travel agents around these days. That industry is getting wiped out. Why? Because you go to websites like, Expedia, Travelocity, whatever. There are hundreds of different travel sites available today. So when you go to Expedia, let's say I want to go to Sydney, Australia. When I go to Expedia and say I want to go to Sydney, Australia, I can not only buy air tickets to go to Australia, I also can book rental cars in Sydney, Australia. I also can get hotels in Sydney, Australia. I also can get tour operators in Sydney, Australia. It goes on and on and on. I can literally do my entire trip and plan it and pay for it and confirm it using an app. Now, that doesn't mean Expedia has all this information. Expedia does. That's how it feels. But you go to the Expedia site, but Expedia connects to Ritz-Carlton. Expedia connects to, Hilton. Expedia connects to, Intercontinental. Or it will connect to Enterprise or Avis or Hertz, tour operators, restaurants, So these are all done through APIs, where all that information, selective information, it doesn't send you to the Hilton site. It actually provides the information you need for hotel reservations on the Expedia site itself. That's what an API does. Another example of that is your weather app. You tap your weather app on your phone. The weather app doesn't know where you are. It actually asks the phone, the hardware, hey, where is this phone? Because you have a GPS in the phone. So the phone tells the weather app, oh, this particular phone is, here's the dot in the US map. It still doesn't know where it is, but it shows the dot. And then you go to Maps and find out what does that dot represent in the US map? Oh, that's San Francisco, California. Okay. So now the weather app recognizes you are in San Francisco, California, and you really want to know what the weather is. And then it goes to the Weather Bureau and finds out, there is live information 24/7, literally from Weather Bureau. And you can get any information you want. And all this happens within seconds. You know what the temperature is, you know what the wind conditions are, you know whether it's going to rain later in the afternoon. You also know the weather for the next whole week. All that happens within seconds, and we don't think about it, neither do we know. Now, take that concept of APIs and transform it to the facility space. What things can we do in the facility space? Because you can actually, once you have a strong app and a platform, you can connect that to multitude of things. You can connect yourself to energy management. You can connect that to other IoTs. You can connect to some software which provides water management. You can connect that same platform to security. So you can do all kinds of things once you are on a strong platform. APIs will allow you to connect. In other words, you don't have to install another 20 apps. Those 20 apps or whatever those applications are will be able to talk to each other, but deliver this information to you instantly on your mobile device. That's the power of APIs. So once the information is accessed through an app, the world will change because it will become much efficient, much faster, much easier to use. The information will be consumerized. Now, many of you hear the term smart buildings. All the new buildings are building in smart technology. What does that mean? You are able to, connect your technology infrastructure into your physical infrastructure where you can literally manage anything and everything in that building. But here's the challenge. For every new building we build, there are over 100 or almost 100 existing buildings in the US, commercial space alone. For every new building we build, there are 100 existing buildings. And 65% of them still have information, some information on paper. Think about all those statistics and the survey we did. So once you get all this information onto an app and then be able to connect with the APIs, we literally can modernize the buildings and take it, to bring it to the information age, so to speak. So that is really the power of APIs. But for facilities managers, in my opinion, for them to be efficient and cost effective, information must be accessible 24/7. And that must be accessible easily. Even more so during these days. Think about what we have gone through right now, a pandemic, and the impact it has on businesses. You're going to have much smaller teams now. And you want to be able to still maintain the building, or you still have the same challenges. Doesn't mean that the challenges have gone away, but you probably have less people. And think about all those papers and information and common places you have to hang around with to get the same information. Talk about social distancing. What if you have access to all this information on your own mobile devices? That helps too. But that's incidental to what happened just now. It's just timely. But whether or not we have a pandemic, this trend is already there. It's coming along. It's just that the facility space has been slow to adapt this level of technology. That's why I believe mobile apps will allow us to access information quickly and efficiently from anywhere, anytime. And apps in the world of facilities management, I believe, is a game changer. Very good. And that's all my presentation is, and I'd love to get any questions from the audience.
Great. Thank you, Suri. Thank you very much. And thank you to our attendees for sending in questions. We do have some time, so we will we'll jump right in. Let's see. So, Suri, I want to start from where you just ended, actually, talking about apps and APIs. We do have a question about security of facilities data, actually. So the question is, can you take a moment to talk about concerns for security for apps in the cloud? As I'm sure you understand, and I'm sure you know from your work, security of data is very important. So you talk a little bit about that as it pertains to apps?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a very important question. And it comes up all the time. People ask me that question. But I want the audience to stop for a moment and think about what we are accomplishing through apps today. So apps today and the information related to apps have significantly advanced in terms of security protection. And that's why you have banks using apps. Today, I can do my entire app on a mobile device. Think about the personal information you have with your banks. That's pretty frightening, isn't it? I mean, it's much more frightening than facilities information. Think about health. I can get, like, for example, I can go to a doctor, I go to the lab, get my test done before I meet the doctor, the same day. The lab results actually comes. It's pretty fast, pretty amazing, really, how fast that can happen. Because I hear a little noise, a ting in my phone, and I open the phone, and there it is. My whatever lab test results is there long before even I go to the doctor. So if you think about that level of information, the reason I am saying that is to give you comfort that personal information of all kinds of extreme value is already on the cloud and already on the mobile. So it's, from Department of Defense, from defense information to all the personal information, HIPAA information, that's already in the cloud. So yes, the short answer is information on the cloud is very secure. So there are two elements to it if you really want to dive into it a little deeper. One is how secure is the cloud and how secure is the information when the information is traveling between the mobile device and the cloud. And that there are really advanced technologies as to how the information is, broken up in chunks so that hackers can't hack it. But that's an ongoing process. As we continue to invest more and dive more into this space, the technology related to security also is becoming stronger.
Thank you. Thanks very much for that. Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit, Suri. We had some questions about the mobile apps for facilities data and some of the processes that might take from getting from paper documents to digital and then over, to mobile. So I'm going to pose a two-part question to you, if you don't mind. What is the best way for us to get our digitized? And along with that, how long might that take, let's say with a system such as ARC Facilities? And then what if someone already has their documents digitized for their facility? Is there some next step they should take?
Okay. So there are two-part question, like you said. And so first one is how do you digitize it? I mean, you have multitude ways of digitizing the documents depending on how big the facilities are, how complex your digital process is. For example, if you have documents which are very, very old and faded, torn, legacy documents, that would be a challenge. But there are technologies available. In our facilities, what we do is we are specialists doing that. We actually have our software program which has built-in artificial intelligence, which can even read complex drawings like that. So short answer to that is, how do you digitize it? You basically scan all the documents and upload it into the cloud. Now, if it is just 8.5 by 11 documents or ordinary small format documents, that's easier. A little more complex with large format drawings, but you can still digitize it. If they're very old, then that gets a little more complex. But it's easy process to do if you have the right vendor. There are few specialists around in the United States who can do that. And relatively, it's not time consuming. If you take a large building complex, depending on the size, it could be a few weeks to actually get all the drawings, scanned and uploaded. So that's the first part of the question. And ask me the second part, and what is the second part you wanted to know? You want to know how fast we can do that?
Yes, that was part of it. And then, yes, I guess let's cover that. What would the process be? I'd mentioned, I think, a few weeks there in your answer there. Is that something that is, an average, or obviously it must depend on, the facilities, assets, et cetera?
Yes. So in our case, if you take our examples, because we have been doing this for a long time and we have the infrastructure set up, a typical building, average commercial size building, let's say it's 2 million square feet, million to 2 million square feet, we should be able to do that in a couple of weeks very comfortably. We would come and pick up the drawings, put them through the scanning process. That's the first step. Once you scan the process, it all goes to the cloud. And then in the cloud, it gets processed. That's where the artificial intelligence and the machine learning would actually extract the information. I think the second question you asked is, if the information is already digital, how does that happen? Absolutely, it's no problem. We would be able to download that information from you and upload it into the cloud, and then the same process, we would then deliver that through the app. So if you have the information already in digital format, we are one step ahead. And so that's the short answer.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I did want to ask you another question that along those lines. You had a slide talking about being able to read building plans and documentation without, quote unquote, human intervention. There was a slide on that. So can you elaborate on what that means as well from your standpoint?
Sure, absolutely. So what happens is then when you take a drawing, a large format drawing, and when you scan that information is scanned data, which is in the cloud. But like I said, still somebody has to read that drawing to find out where the shutoff valve is. So when we say we can use artificial intelligence or machine learning, what we do is we apply artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques, which is really translates to optical character recognition with artificial intelligence built in. So now when you scan the drawing and put through that OCR process, it will scan and identify all the callouts in those building drawings. All of those little triangles and squares you see in the drawings, which denotes a shutoff valve or an air handler or air conditioner, whatever the piece of equipment might be, we'll be able to pick up and extract all that information automatically using optical character recognition technologies, which is integrated with artificial intelligence. Once you do that, then we'll be able to hyperlink that information to the relevant documents. For example, if you identified an air conditioner and you knew it's an air conditioner, now you can go to manufacturer's documents just by clicking on it. And then it opens up the manufacturer's documents or servicing agent details or the last inspection report. So if you think about it in layman's terms, what we do is we use optical character recognition to extract the information and then interconnect them with other information. That's when you slide, you tap, and you do 2 more taps, because in the background, the information is interconnected. So let's go to the Expedia example. You are in Expedia, you are in Australia, Sydney, Australia, then you touch hotels, then it'll ask you what type of hotels, then you tap on that one, boom. If you want to get a luxury suite or you want to get a regular room, you can get that information. So it interconnects all that information in the background using these technologies. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. And I actually wanted to hone in on a few similar questions we had gotten, and before we wrap it up with a few more minutes. So I thank you, and thanks to everyone for sending in your questions. And if we don't get to your question, Suri will be able to address it. I want to point that out offline. But Suri, actually, I know you had shown the short videos showing the ARC Facilities app, and we're getting some questions asking about, a specific app that can do the features and capabilities that you've been talking about. So I wanted to just give you a chance to provide a refreshed overview of the ARC Facilities app, because people, are kind of asking, what's available with this. And obviously with ARC Facilities being able to offer this, I wanted you to have a chance to just, again, give a brief overview of what that app is that you provide for facilities, so we can, close out with that.
Sure. So what we have done, ARC Facilities, is that we have taken this concept of extracting building information out of the drawings and all the building information you have. So in other words, the way we think about it is we actually literally take this document storage room or your large server of documents, extract that information and put it on the cloud and be able to deliver that on an app. So when you open the ARC Facilities app, it breaks it down into 3 or 4 components. We have one which called, building, which means all the building information, closeout information, any, as-builds, all the information related to physical building infrastructure is there. Then, once we actually gave that, our customers were like, oh, we love this platform. We want to be able to access other information. And then we built the equipment platform where we could have all the equipment and all the information related to the equipment, whether it is, the latest work order, inspection report, warranty information, any parts information, anything can be stored in there. Or if you want to put notifications for when that equipment should be serviced. So we started building equipment and we put that. And somebody else asked us, this came from another group of customers, we love to have the emergency information separately for emergency and life safety. So we built a module for emergency and life safety. We use the same concept where in an emergency situation, you should be able to access the safety valves, or you should be able to access the emergency plan from anywhere. Usually people have emergency plans printed and locked up in a drawer somewhere, or it's on a computer somewhere. But when you're dashing out of the building because there's an explosion or there's some issue or active shooter, wouldn't you like to actually pull out your phone and get that emergency information? So anyway, that particular idea actually came from our customers. So once we got all the building drawings on the platform, customers started asking, can we have equipment? Can we have emergency? And that's how we started building other modules. We're building right now one for the hospitals. It's called compliance. It's not released yet. But if you want to make sure a hospital is compliant and you want to, especially related to physical environment of care, all those documents can be instantly accessed using this platform. Again, that recommendation or suggestion came from one of our healthcare professionals. So this is the example I was talking about. And once you get onto the platform and build a user interface where customers can intuitively swipe and tap and get this information, that's like, it's very addictive because you start doing that more and more. That's what we do in our personal lives, don't we? We have an app, we can listen to music, we start ordering cab, we get food done, that actually goes to the next level. Think about the terms. I'll give you 3 common names people talk about: Alexa, Siri, right? And these are all common names. You can, nowadays, you can actually go to Amazon Alexa and say, switch on my lights or turn on my security. We're doing that already. It's not science fiction. We already do that. So imagine if a facility manager can ask Alexa or Siri, and I'm sure it will come, we don't have it now, hey, where is my shut-off valve for the 5th floor? That would be pretty amazing in terms of user interface and how easy it can become, which is what I refer to as consumerization of information. Anyway, this is an interesting subject. We can talk for a long time, and it's really showing how the world of facilities is getting transformed. And in the next, 5 to 10 years, I think this impact will be significant. People are not going to be reaching out to their desktops and to their servers to get information. Because by nature, facilities management is a mobile job. You have to be in the site all the time. It's not a desk job. And therefore, it really befits for the facilities managers to be able to have that information in their fingertips or in their pockets, so to speak.
Yes, I certainly agree. And I appreciate you closing out with that. I have a very quick question, then I will let you go and appreciate our attendees continuing to send in the questions. Just along what you were talking about, describing the app, we just had a quick question, and I want to confirm this. Photos, they're able to be uploaded to the app, correct? And how about videos?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. So photos and videos are very, very easy to upload. Your photos is commonplace now. Videos are commonplace now, obviously. Short videos with regard to how it works and how you open something or how you access some place. Any details could be put in. You can not only put in those videos, you can actually, while you're maintaining something, let's say you're repairing something and something is broken, a pipe is leaking, you can literally shoot a video and immediately send that to the maintenance manager and say, this is the pipe which is leaking. You can take a picture and send it. You can take a video and send it, share it. So there is immense use. That is something, again, part of this technology we have. Once you get on the mobile platform, use of photographs, videos, and even live chats is very easy because you can actually talk into the software. You can be in front of an air conditioner and read the warranty number and text it to somebody. You don't have to even type it in. So a significant use of voice and video and photographs. And
that's wonderful to know. And as we all know, that comes in handy, certainly while facilities staff and their technicians are out in the field. So thanks for clarifying that. Appreciate it. Well, thank you very much, Suri, for your presentation. It's really been a lot of information packed in this hour. So I want to thank you again for the presentation and to ARC Facilities for sponsoring the event.
Thank you, Anne. Appreciate it. And I want to thank all the audience for the participation today. I apologize for the little gap we had. That's all challenges which come with the technology. Again, have a great afternoon.
Okay, and a recording of the webinar will be available online at facilityexecutive.com. And as I said, you'll also be able to get your questions addressed offline as well. And thank you very much, everyone. Have a great afternoon.